Record. Oh, stop share. Hold on. 1 second.
Where did he see it?
I know. See that? Screen share. Boom. Okay, there we go. Let me get you back in the picture. Okay. All right, record part 2. So, this is not working here. Let me get this over here. Okay. All right, so Leon, continuing on with your discussion, one of the great things that I learned in doing my research with you is that there are a number of survivors of these partisan groups, and a group put together a reunion, and then they made a movie about it. In 2011, you went back to New York City, and this picture is part of that reunion. Tell me a little bit about that reunion. Who went to the reunion, and who's this gentleman we see in the picture?
Once a year, they used to have a reunion from the survivors, and this gentleman, he's a survivor too, but I never met him after he survived. You follow me? So
you knew him 65 years, 75 years now.
Yeah. I knew him, yeah. So my kids used to go with me. My son Larry and my daughter-in-law. We used to go to the reunion. It was very, very interesting. As a matter of fact, it was people, very important people, even from the government. Used to speak. Very nice and it was for us very touching, because I used to come in and meet people that I didn't even know that they would survive the war. You know what I mean? And this one here, we used to embrace and hug, and all that thing. And then I see over here, he was standing there, and I said from before, and I see, oh, he's there. So I ran over and I grabbed him.
Before you said, "What's my name?"
Yeah.
And he looked at your tag. He said, "Don't look at the tag."
Yeah.
And what you call him, Lab?
Yeah.
Label.
Label. Yeah.
And then he knew you.
Oh, you're kidding! He was older than me. He was 4 years old.
He was born in 1922. 6
years. Yeah. Correct. But he didn't even recognize me. He didn't recognize me. But I hugged him because I knew his family. And all these things here, and everybody was.
That to me is the greatest picture of all.
Yeah.
And now in 2011, you hadn't seen him for 65 years.
Yeah.
So I know he's unfortunately passed away, but that's an incredible reunion.
He passed away, as a matter of fact. He moved to Florida. He moved to Florida, and he was financially in good shape. You know what I mean? So, but one of his daughters was left. I don't know. I have not been in touch with her for a very long time. But
yeah.
And what can I tell you? It was.
I'm going to ask you a question. Just give Billy a second to come on. You there, Billy?
I am. Here I am.
We're almost finishing up. I'm going to ask Leon one more question.
Okay.
So Leon, you've gone through more of Leon. Sorry. This is Leon, his friend. So scratch. This picture here you're looking at, Billy, is Alan and Leon in 2011 in a reunion in New York City. They hadn't seen each other for 65 years, but they were from the same village.
Yeah, actually, we weren't friends. We would know each other because he was older than me.
Yeah, he was 6 years older, so he knew him, but they weren't best friends.
I think he was 4 years older than me.
Yeah, it's always that case.
Yeah,
Billy's one of a big family. He's got 7 children himself, so it's different.
But he passed away. And his brother survived too. His brother, and his brother moved to Texas, and he became very successful, and he passed away. So there's nobody from the family that's alive,
He's the only survivor of all those 55 people that met in 2011 in New York City. So Leon, I said,
he's also the only survivor of all the people that were doing him harm.
That's right.
You outlived
Those
them all,
people
as Benny Binion said.
you survived them too, right? All those bad guys, the bad Germans and the bad Russians,
Oh, are you
you
kidding?
out survived them.
Listen, let me tell you something. Well, I didn't tell you in Bosnia. I would testify to tribunals. My mind was dedicated, my body and everything was dedicated to catch those that collaborated with the Nazis. You know what I mean? And I knew them because they thought that nobody survived from my hometown. Any Jewish people that will be able to testify against them. And then, so they used that like wolves coming in little by little to town, you know, these guys, because who's going to, and I was there and another few people, that survivors, you know, and my life was dedicated that time just to catch the son of a bitches, you know, that collaborated with the Germans and helped to kill the Jews, you know.
Cowards.
To come in, of course, and I used to, and then I used to point them out.
So
And
you
I-
dealt with the cowards.
And I went to testify before the tribunals. Before the tribunals, I used to testify. You know, the tribunals, and each one of them that I testified, they got 20 years, 30 years. Nobody ever survived in Siberia, except one time. This is very interesting. I wanted to take my kids to my hometown, you know, to where I was born, you know, and all that. So I get a call from one of my friends that lived there. He says, "Don't come because that son of a bitch survived." Because when I testified against the German collaborator, he said, "Unless I'm dead, and I'll kill you."
Oh, so you don't want to meet up with him.
So and nobody who survived in 20 years in Siberia, you know what I mean?
This
Sure
guy
enough,
did.
he survived and he came, you know, and I couldn't go for a while to my hometown because they warned me that he's going to kill me. He would have done it, you know. So I waited about 2 years later. I get a call from there from a friend of mine. He says, "The guy died. He's dead. Now you can come."
Come on home.
Him.
I
He survived as jailer.
I
So
survived him.
you have such survival stories and other stories. Let's wrap this whole thing
Yeah,
up. Someone once asked
Well,
you.
just one question. I see you worked in the garment industry. Was that in New York in the Times Square area?
Yes, correct.
So
I-
you
I
had to live
started
through
out-
another war zone because Times Square back then, well, into the 70s, the 60s and 70s was very, relatively speaking, not very dangerous compared to what you had been through already. But it must have been interesting for you to see, you know, a lot of regular people in Times Square dodging muggers and things like that for decades.
Let me tell you something very interesting. Which, as I said, my life is. I can tell you for you know hours. When I came to the United States, you know, I came to my uncle, my mother's brother, who came here in 1912, and he worked in the garment industry. And I didn't have any education. Don't forget, I didn't have any education. When I broke out, I went to the 5th grade public school, which was a Russian public school. What do I do now? So my uncle had a lot of connections. He was loved in the garment industry, and they found a place for me to learn to be a cutter. You know, so when I got
Nice.
He cut the patterns.
I got a job as a cutter, and then the Korean War broke out. You know, in 19. You know, when the Korean War broke out, you know, I didn't have to go. As a matter of fact, I said no, I want to go. So they started the family. Why you want to go? I said because I want to go to the United States Army. So I went to the Army, and here's something very interesting. I make it short. The guys that went with me to the Army, we were in the medical part of the Army. So they send everybody
Keep talking. Go on. Keep talking. Go on. Keep telling.
So everybody went, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
So they went they sent them to Korea. You know, nobody came back. They all got killed. And me, they sent to Germany because I spoke fluent at that time Polish and German and all that. And I came to the United States Army in Germany. And I can tell you right now that if somebody asks you, what are the best years of your life? The best years of my life was in the American Army, the 2 years that I spent You know, I can't even.
World War II Korean veteran. See
I,
that?
I do see it. I'm,
And partisan.
and no pun intended, my hat is off to you. Alan Small, there is nothing small about you. Literally nothing small about you. It's an
you know,
amazing story.
I just want to tell you something. So I went to the garment industry and I started working over there. Became a cutter. Then I became for a very big company. I became the head cutter. You know, in charge of the cutters. You know, I had about 15 or 20 cutters, and then I became production manager for Ankline and Company. You know, it's well known.
Sure.
I know it. A very good friend of mine worked there in the late 70s, early 80s. Jay
What's his name?
Morrissey.
What's his
Jay
name?
Morrissey. Jay Morrissey. I think he was the shipping guy.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Billy used to work in Times Square.
Yeah, of course, of course. Became the production manager. Then I
No
became
separation. You and Billy are not separated.
yeah, and then I became
We,
vice.
we were only 10 blocks apart for 78 through 88, probably.
And then I became vice president of the company, you know what I mean? And then president of Ankline Company I became. And then I went to Hong Kong. I opened up an office there. In Turkey, an office in Korea. Nobody believed that I can do it, you know, without education. And thank God.
Well, you had an education. You just didn't have a school book education.
Yeah, it's only but the United States. This is a country that, you know, I would give my life today for this country. It's the best one in the world. You know,
Were you still at Ann Klein when they moved to New Jersey?
are you kidding? I was the one picked out the place.
Over in, yeah.
Yeah, you kidding?
Secaucus or Rutherford?
Huh?
Was it in Rutherford or Secaucus?
It was near Secaucus.
In that news center, yeah.
You know, the reason that I had to pick out the place in Secaucus, I had a lot of trouble with the union. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
The union was giving a lot of the cutters, you know, they give a cut. So I came up with an idea, you know, as a matter of fact, I says, let's open up. We took a place, 120 square feet warehouse in New Jersey, the biggest one over there.
120,000.
Yeah, I was there. It was by the New York Times.
Yeah, so listen to this. So I said, okay, let's see now. There's plenty of room there. We're going to transfer the cutting room to New Jersey, and that's how you're going to get rid of the union, because they're going to give you a hard time again. So this, well, how can you do it? I said, very easily. You're not firing them. You give him a chase. You'll pay for their car fare that they take the ferry or that. So he said, are you sure? I said, try it out. I said, if I'm not sure, you'll fire me. You know?
Yeah.
So
That's a
sure
risk.
no, they asked the cutters, not one wanted to go. So we gave him 2 weeks pay.
They want
you
to
know.
stay.
And
They didn't want to make they didn't want to make the transition.
Cutters in New Jersey.
I didn't cut in New Jersey anymore already, you know. I gave out to the factories to cut.
Oh, you're outsourcing.
Are you kidding?
That's why you went to Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, I opened up an office. My favorite place was in Turkey. I used to come there. Oh my God! And the thing is that you wouldn't believe. I had a secretary, and when I used to do big business, you know, big meetings and all that, and I never knew how to work a calculator. And my
He
secretary.
doesn't know how to use a
I
calculator.
still today I'll calculate, and the secretary used to sit next to me. And when I used to, as a matter of fact, in Turkey was the funniest thing. I was the guy's son was running for president of Turkey, and she was holding her hand by her mouth because she wanted to laugh. I pretended I'm using the calculator, and I had every style in my mind. I said, "This one I'll give you, that one I'll give you the other one." So the guy said, I said to the guy, "What else?" He says, "You mean to tell me we're finished?" I said, "Unless you have anything else." I says, "I'm finished." He says, in all the years that I was in business, he says, "I never met anyone like you. When are you going home?" He says, I said, "It was Friday." I said, "I'm going Saturday morning." He says, "No, you're not going home Saturday." And he sends a yacht to pick me up Friday afternoon and took me to his place. They had where all the rich people there, and I spent the entire week. And I used to make $1 million. I had an office all over there, all over.
All right. So I want to ask you this question that somebody else asked you in kind of closing up here.
Yeah, let's close
What
it.
what would you tell young people with all your experience, and there's so much kind of hate going on right now?
Oh,
What would you tell young people from your experience over 95 years, and you were sentenced to death, you defied all the odds and so forth. What would you tell people from your experience today? What's the lesson you learned?
you see, let me tell you, I suffer a lot for the last, what do they call it, couple of weeks or more than a couple of weeks.
It's gonna get me as cold now.
I never thought that I'll see it in this country, what I see now. It's unbelievable, you know. The anti-Semitism that I see is only the last time I saw this was under the German occupation. And the people, the hatred for one another, you know, and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what I see. And I don't know, it worries me. I got news for you. I don't, honestly, to be honest with you, I don't sleep nights. I see it, it breaks my heart. Breaks my heart what I see. For what? For when? You know what I mean? And yet, right away, who is to blame for everything? The Jew is to blame for everything. I mean, the Jewish, you gotta start thinking what they contributed to this country. The Jewish people contributed to the country a lot, you know what I mean? Look at this with the scientists. Who was the scientist that called it the Jewish people? Everything that could happen in the United States as far as health is concerned, the Jewish people were involved. Yes, they have businesses because the reason we are in business, the Jewish people are in businesses because you couldn't get a job for a Jew any place else, you know, years ago. The anti-Semitism was years ago, and the Jew had very good business heads, you know, so they went into business. So what? They didn't kill people, they helped people. I mean, really.
There's too many ignorant people in this world. Too many very, very ignorant people.
Yeah, ignorant people, and it bothers me a lot. I'll tell you when I see it, it's really killing me. I cannot describe to you what I go through right now when I put on the television and what I see. I don't like what I see because it's unbelievable, unbelievable. I come to a place where all the Polish people live there, you know, they build with each other, you know, and all that. Of course, there was good and bad about it, but a lot of it survived because of the Polish people helped them to survive. All of a sudden, they became against the Jews. What did the Jews help you? Nobody.
People got to sit down and listen to each other a little bit more, right?
Yeah, they got to talk to each other and to listen to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people just tend to put people in categories and generalize and then write them off, and it's ridiculous.
Well,
It's patently ridiculous.
we know one thing. They tried to write Alan off, and that's not happening anytime soon. This has been delightful, Alan. Okay.
By the way, waiting for that 2-outer on the river must be a piece of cake for you compared to the other stuff you've had to. I mean, sitting in a barrel in your attic, minutes from being killed if you're caught, must give you quite a poker face when you're sitting there with a stone
Got a
cold.
good poker face, and when he makes it $20, it's almost like saying all in.
But listen, I'm going to tell you something. Here, when I walk into the poker room, you know, they treat me like I'm a king, you know. Why? Because everybody, you know, they're nice guys. They want to win money. You know, I sit down.
It's admiration.
Yeah, and you see what it is I don't want to make a living in the cards. I take with me X amount of money. It lasts an hour, I go home in an hour. It lasts 3 hours, it goes 3 hours. I'm not stupid, you know. I'm not going to come with $500 and in 5 minutes I lose the $500, you know. I mean, I'd rather give it to my kids, you know.
But this is,
Yeah.
Alan, you have educated us and our friends to no end. This has been
But
awesome.
I didn't educate you enough because look, it's very easy. and I made a exception to talk to you about it because I know that I'm not going to sleep tonight. You know what I mean? Because it takes a long time for me to get over it. Because when I think about
Well,
it,
you can sleep tonight thinking about this
Yeah,
embrace. This is a good.
Yeah, and think about the fact that, I'll be praying for you every night for the rest of my life and people like you. I have nothing but respect. So
you
we
know,
really appreciate you opening up to us like this. I know it can't be easy.
I just want to interrupt you for a second. 3 years ago, was it or something? The Spanish River High School in this area is one of the biggest high schools. So they dedicated the weekend to celebrate my life. You should see what happened.
Big high school here, big
biggest,
regional high school
the biggest high school.
in West Palm.
The entire weekend was dedicated to celebrate my life, and the bands were playing, the music was playing, and the marches, and I'll tell you, and
We need more. We need more.
And there wasn't a Nazi in sight.
no, there was not
More
enough.
bands, less bullets, right, Billy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, listen, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do.
I'm gonna
You
stop
gotta,
this right now. We can keep talking. Let me just stop the recording.